So my name is Alexander Me, and I'm from Paris, France. I was born just west of Paris, in Neuilly-sur-Seine, in the American Hospital of Paris, actually, interestingly enough. And my father is American, and my mother is Dutch.
My name is Catalina. I was raised in St. Martin for 13 years, and then I moved to Greece for 5 years. My mom's American and my father's French.
My name is Reva Uthray. I was born in New Jersey, but both my parents are from India, so they came here about like 25 years ago. So while we lived in New Jersey, while I've lived in New Jersey my whole life, I go back to India maybe like every 2 or 3 years to like be with my family, mainly my grandparents. So I feel like I'm really in touch with like my parents' cultures as well as mine. It's gotten confusing for me sometimes because like people in India don't really see me as Indian, they see me as American. And then when I'm over here, people kind of automatically assume that I'm from somewhere else. And I don't mind questions like, oh, where is your family from, or what's your ethnicity? But I just kind of get annoyed when people are like, oh, where are you really from though? Because I automatically tell people I'm from New Jersey, but then they're like, oh, where are you really from? And I just don't like the way people pose that question.
Well, you know, I don't think I have any particular home. I have many homes because I have many people in my life that I tend to attribute to being family. I have my nuclear family who live in Texas, and I consider that home. I have my family here in Illinois, and I consider this home. But at the same time, you know, I have family and friends who live in Pakistan, who live in Iraq, and even Ireland, where I was born. And I consider all of those places home as well. And so, you know, asking what is my home is kind of a difficult question because I have so many homes, because I feel at home in any place where there's friends or family.
Well, that's a hard question to answer because home for me obviously home for me will always be my house, my family, you know, I have a large family. And somewhere, I mean, obviously it's a very physical and tangible thing for me.
Right.
But now that I've crossed over to the US and I've now been studying here, home for me is now more of an idea, something less tangible. And in that sense, although I am American, I don't fit in here as well as an American should. People can call me out for being foreign. You know, I use meters, I use Celsius. You know, it's the small things, but I'm not totally welcome here, nor am I in France, nor am I in Holland. So the idea of home for me is really a new identity based on all three of them, which only people that share that exact, you know, blend what we call family for me.
Right.
You know? Well, since I didn't grow up in one specific culture to its fullest extent, and because I took bits and pieces of each culture, I've kind of created my own cultural identity, if you will. It's something that marks who I am, but it's something that allows me to be more open-minded and to accept different cultures. I'm in the process of creating home in Boston. I mean, because I've been living here for 3 years, it's starting to grow on me. And maybe that wouldn't have been possible or easy for me to do had I not been open-minded, had I, you know, relied solely on a mindset that was, my home is in France, not my home can be wherever I want it to be.
Right.
I suppose I would identify myself as American, or maybe Austrian American, because I also have like Austrian citizenship because my grandparents are from Austria, although I don't like speak any German.
Right. Well, I guess it depends on who I'm around. When I'm around my family and my friends who share a cultural identity from me, i.e. being from, you know, Pakistan or any place like that, I act differently in the sense that I speak the language Urdu, and we talk about the various different things that we have in common. But when I'm around people who are such as Americans and stuff, who I've also, you know, grown up around, I act as an American because in reality I am also an American, having grown up in American society for much of my life.
Well, I would say that it shapes my relationships because we're forced, I say we, people in my position, forced to seek each other out. When I came to Emerson, I was only friends with international students from the get-go. Obviously, that's a trend that you can see. People from specific cultures or, you know, heritage or race tend to converge into a group because it's what's comfortable, it's what they know. And in the same way, I gravitated towards an international student body. So, in a sense, you could say that I actively seek out people who share a common cultural background as me. Perhaps not common to a T, but common in the sense that it is convoluted just as much as mine is.
Well, that's a good question because obviously people who share the same culture as I do, definitely I tend to become closer with them because obviously we have more in common. But that doesn't necessarily mean that people who don't share my culture are, you know, just blocked out. Because no matter what culture we're in, there's always these overlapping, you know, kind of ideals and things like that. There's always things that I can relate to with anybody. And so even though, you know, I might be closer to people who share, you know, the exact same culture that I have, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that I can't, you know, be very close friends with people who are, you know, born in America, raised in America, or anywhere else, honestly. Because we live in such a multicultural society that, you know, to do such a thing like that, to block people out because of a different culture would be horrific because you honestly couldn't relate to anyone then. And because of that, I find myself in a situation where I really can't discriminate between anyone of a different culture because we all have things in common.
I suppose like inherently like culture like shapes the way like you interact with other people and their cultures that they bring respectively.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe like on your on a day-to-day interaction, would you say like the culture kind of plays a role in when you talk to people at all, or not really?
To some extent, yeah, because like maybe someone will like make a reference to something American that I won't necessarily get. Although I seem so American, like I wasn't raised here, so I don't catch like all the references, and so like that'll like be like a funny reminder of the fact that like I'm still, I don't know, like foreign somehow.
Right.
Yes and no. My goals in life obviously revolve around what I want just as much as anyone else would, and what I want obviously is to be good in my major, you know, to succeed, you know, to know success. And so obviously I feel that that's a normal objective for anyone, but in another sense, it does orient where I want to be in life, where what I expect out of life and what I put into it. I wouldn't be scared of going to a country that I didn't know the language of, that I didn't know the culture of, to seek out work or, you know, new experiences. It's something that I'm not bridled by cultural fear.
I suppose to some extent. Different like societies have like different expectations. Like in Greece, like if you don't become like a doctor or a lawyer, like you're considered kind of like a failure. But I suppose that's kind of true like in the West in general. But like I recently like got accepted into like a program to study in Vietnam next semester, and so like I really want to like travel to like a continent I've never like been before, and so I suppose that's like informed by like the fact that I know all these other cultures, but I don't know that one.
Right. Okay.
Well, I find that my culture shapes my goals and objectives in a small way, and not necessarily in kind of an overarching way. It's very common in Pakistani and even Indian culture for kids to become things like, you know, doctors and engineers and various like very high paying, very highly educated jobs, and that's because there's a very big focus on education itself in those areas of the world. And so I find that being of that culture, I find that my parents and my family and stuff, you know, are very adamant that I get, you know, the best education possible and, you know, just be the best that I could possibly be. But while also, you know, giving me this open, like, choice of being whatever I want to be, as long as I'm, you know, as good as I could be in that particular field.
Yeah, definitely in high school, because in high school I didn't really see myself. It's not that I didn't see myself as Indian. I just like I felt like I was American first, and for a while Indian just kind of like referred to what my parents were rather than me, because I used to not like hold many of like their traditional views to like my own views. Like I used to think my parents were very traditional and they were very different, and I felt like I was more American than them because I was born here, and I didn't really feel Indian per se. But then when I moved to, I feel like when I came to Emerson, I kind of had to like reevaluate everything, and I realized that I wanted to keep my uniqueness here. Like I wanted to be unique. I wanted other people to kind of, you know, broaden their horizons a little bit when it comes to interacting with people of different cultures. So when I came here, I identified more as Indian American, but in high school and in my childhood, I would tell people I was American.
No, I never feel like it's a problem, because, you know, I tend to adapt to whatever culture that I'm around. So in that sense, if I'm around people who are American, you know, I speak and act as if I'm an American, because honestly, you know, I am part American. And so, you know, but it changes when I'm around, you know, people who might be like Pakistani or something like that, because, you know, we share a different type of culture, we speak a different language, we eat different foods, etc., etc., and so we tend to act in a different way. But I never find myself, you know, in a place where I'm like, you know, who am I really? Because in reality, I'm a conglomerate of different cultures, and so it's never really a problem.
The downfalls of having culture. I think when people are like proud of their culture, they tend to kind of hate on other people. Either they'll hate on other people or they'll try to be too politically correct. And I don't want people to like I don't want to be treated as equal, meaning like I don't want everybody to be like the same. I personally want to be appreciated for my background, and I want other people to be appreciated for their background. So I think that like culture has to be less about hating other people and loving your own culture, and it has to be more about appreciating everybody for their differences.
That's a hard question, but I mean, like the first thing that comes to mind is maybe like lack of like education, or like religion. I feel like plays like a really large like role. Like that's probably like one of like the biggest. Like I was like waiting for a cab going home in Greece, in Athens, and I get in the cab and there's like already an American couple in the back seat, so I get in the front seat. And in Greece, it's like completely like commonplace to share cabs like with strangers, and in other countries that's not okay. Like you have the cab to yourself. And the cab driver didn't speak any English, and so I get in the taxi and I'm like ready to go home. And the couple's like, "What are you doing in our taxi? Like, why are you here?" You know, like they're American tourists, and it's like so awkward. And I have to explain it like, no, like this is commonplace. Like this is just like a cultural norm here. Like I'm sorry that I have to like explain it to you right now. And usually they do that like out of convenience, like he's gonna drop me on his way to like drop them off, but that was uncomfortable.
Right.
I find myself identifying with a lot of different cultures, but no culture in particular, because I have so many different roots, and so because of that, I can't really say that I identify myself with one culture, but rather identify myself with, you know, Irish culture, Pakistani culture, Iraqi culture, American culture, you know? All of these different things and all of these different places that I have friends and family that I've been to, that I've lived in, and that I've grown up in, I have to identify with all of those. So to be honest, I kind of have my own culture that, you know, me and my nuclear family share, that because we've lived in all the same places. And so I guess I couldn't identify myself